Booktube, Science Fiction Reads here with another book haul. All November I was focused on New Worlds November reading, so I didn't do any book hauls for that month. So it's been a while and I have a collection building up. But before I get started, I just wanted to mention that I did do an episode of Desert Island Books with Sean D. Standfast. So I'm going to include a link down below if anyone's interested in checking that out. It was super fun. It was the first time I did a video with anyone else. It wasn't live, but it basically felt like it was. And it was fun, and it went pretty well. And one of these books will have no context unless unless you have seen that video. So let's jump into the actual book haul here, starting with a couple curios. I found this at a bookstore. The Architects of Hyperspace by Thomas R. McDonough. Donahue. Never heard of this or the author. Sounds like a space opera where someone is traveling to the planet that her father died on. And there's intergalactic pirates. And yeah, I don't know much about it. The cover art and obviously the title caught my attention. I have high hopes for that, but we'll see. A couple here by L. Neil Smith. Contact and Commune. These have some pretty amusing covers. And Converse and Conflict. There's no way these are not part of the same series. I've not done any research. Usually I look up the majority of the books I have in a book haul before I actually talk about them on camera, but I have not done that. So some of these I don't know much about. I did read one thing by L. Neil Smith years ago. It was a DAW paperback. Can't remember what it was. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5. These obviously have, I think, a little bit of humor to them. They were cheap and they just sound like they might be fun. Here's something I've never heard of. This is by Charles Sheffield, an author I love for his Heritage Universe, his future history of the Heritage Universe. But this is called The Amazing Dr. Darwin, The Adventures of Charles Darwin's Grandfather. I have not heard of this. This seems like the kind of thing where he could have wrote more than just one book, but I haven't even read the back. It just sounds fun, and it's Charles Sheffield. Again, humor, except this, well, I guess I have read L. Neil Smith too. I like Charles Sheffield's humor. It's not in your face. This, I think, yeah, third book in a trilogy by Pierce Anthony. This is Ox. I remember reading about this trilogy. I don't think I've read anything by Pierce Anthony that I liked. But the cover art's awesome. The story sounds interesting. So if I ever find the other two, I can check that out. Pamela Sargent, Venus of Dreams, book 1 in her Venus trilogy. I'm going to buddy read this trilogy with Sean. He's probably wondering when we're going to do that because I haven't got back to him about when we're starting. We can start anytime. Yeah, I don't have the third yet. Have I read anything by Pamela Sargent? Maybe in a short story collection. I'm looking forward to this. Sean wants to read a bunch of Venus-related stories and maybe some Mars stuff. I think he wants to read the Venus trilogy kind of close to the Mars trilogy by Kim Stanley Robinson, which would be interesting to compare. Something more recent by Gareth L. Powell, Embers of War. The only thing I've read by Gareth Powell is the book he co-wrote with Peter Hamilton, which I'm not going to find. Yeah, I don't know where that is. It was a short novella by Tor, but I'm not sure where it is. I can't remember the name. I read it earlier this year, I think, and it was good. I'll post something up. Another curio by John Wyndham, but writing as John Bainan, says his first full-length novel, The Secret People. This is a story about a subterranean culture that's discovered, I think. I read the blurb like a month ago when I found the book. Okay, I recently read some Joan D. Vinge short fiction and absolutely loved it, and then just started buying up all her books. Here's her only other, I believe, short story collection, Phoenix in the Ashes, which I started and I just didn't like the first story, so I set it back down. But looking forward to reading more of her short fiction. And then I got her Tangled Up in Blue, which I think there's 4 or 5 books in this series. Because it is, what is it? It's the Snow Queen world, so I think maybe 5 books in that series. I've read 2 of them so far. Jeff Ryman, The Child Garden, a book I've heard of but know nothing about. I don't even remember. Yeah, there's not much of a blurb on the back. I know it's well regarded. I mean, it won the Arthur C. Clarke Award, so there's a lot of curios in this. I've shown this before. I sold this on eBay, but then I became interested in these. Artifact of Evil, Greyhawk Adventures by Gary Gygax. These are not going to be very good, but I'm curious what fantasy written by the guy who created D&D is like. So I have a few of these, and they just have awesome, awesome art. Mike Resnick, Paradise. I like Mike Resnick. I have not read enough of him yet. Santiago, the Book of Man. Was that what that was called? Yeah, lots of good stuff by him. 7 Views of Ortevi Gorge. A Wall Around a Star by Frederick Pohl and Jack Williamson. How do you turn down that art? Something more modern, Empire of Silence by Christopher Rucchio? I can't pronounce it. A lot of hype for this lately. I know this is what, like a 5-book series now, or it's supposed to be. I haven't read much into it. It's so highly hyped, like the Expanse series, that I just assume it's not going to be that great. But I will read it. This is like a modern space opera. Sounds like it's right up my alley, but we'll see. I'm always reluctant when something's super popular because usually I don't like it, unfortunately. Robert Charles Wilson, I just read his book. Oh man, I can't even think of the name. But I wanted to read more by him, specifically Darwinia, but I couldn't find that yet. But I did find Blind Lake, which also sounded interesting. I'd rather not have a hardcover because I don't have room for these, but kind of hard SF. For what I remember of the description, there is none on the back of this copy, but I liked what I read so far, and I want to read more by him. Another curio. This is like a science fantasy, from what I can tell, by Jessica Amanda Salmonson, The Swordswoman. Never heard. Well, I might have heard of this before, but really, I've not really heard of the author. I feel like I've seen this book before somewhere, but it sounds interesting. I think it's kind of like a portal fantasy, maybe. It's got a couple illustrations inside at the beginning of each chapter, maybe. It's a book club edition. Curious. Memoirs of a Space Traveler, Further Reminiscences of Ion Tichy. Stanislaw Lem. These are short stories about a character of his that I've never heard of. Is this book club? No, this must be a first edition. Which reminds me of something else I forgot to grab. Speaking of first editions, I found this yesterday. I paid $5 for it at a thrift store. The Handmaid's Tale. I believe this is a first edition. I still haven't done the concrete work to make absolutely sure, but I'm pretty sure that is a first edition, which I will sell on eBay. It says, somebody wrote, Merry Christmas 1985 with love. And of course it's got the jacket clipped. That is unfortunate, but otherwise it's in great shape. I had never seen that cover before, but I am, yeah, pretty sure that's first. This, something I plan to read quite soon, The Venging by Greg Bear. This is, I believe this is his first short story collection, but it was originally titled, The Wind from a Burning Woman, which is one of the stories. That's my cat playing with toys. Then it was reissued years later as The Venging with 2 extra stories. I believe The Venging is one of those. But of course, Greg Bear just passed away. And I love Greg Bear, so I want to read more. Here's something, I don't think I mentioned this earlier when I got it, because I got this quite a while ago, but this is Garth Marenghi's Terror Tome. This is not science fiction. This is horror written by an author who does not exist. I won't spend much time talking about it, but if you've seen Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, the 6-episode TV show from the early 2000s, you know that this is amazing that this even exists, because that was such a long time ago. The fact that he wrote this now is crazy. I look forward to that. I don't know when I'll read it. I don't think I've read a horror book before, but that's more of a comedy horror. I found another World's Best SF by Donald Wollheim collection, 1982, this one. So now I have, I think, 4 of these. They're okay. The later ones are not that great. This has, honestly, 50% of these authors I haven't actually heard of. But I was happy to find another one of those. This, I think this is another type of portal fantasy. I think it's mostly a fantasy. 3 Hearts and 3 Lions by Poul Anderson. It's a book club edition, I believe. Yeah. Don't know much about it, but a $1 book club edition. Why not? The Lost Swords Endgame by Fred Saberhagen. I don't know what this is. I know he has this, his probably biggest series is the Swords series or something, and I have 2 omnibuses of those novels. This might be some of those novels again, and now I have a duplicate, but I felt like maybe this was other books that take place in the series, so I grabbed it because it was only $1 anyway. Like I said earlier, I've not done the research on these yet. And that cat never plays, so I'm going to just let her go ahead because she never enjoys herself. Clifford D. Sumac, Macedonia. I bought this because I have, for some reason, a decent-sized growing collection of book club editions of Sumac books. But I like Sumac. I like everything I've read by him. And again, it was like $1, I think, so another one for the collection. Should please Sean. A.A. Attanasio, Hunting the Ghost Dancer. Maybe I will stop her. A.A. Attanasio, Hunting the Ghost Dancer. This takes place in the far past, like primitive man, I believe, and some sort of epic journey of 2 characters in some tribe. I know this author is well regarded. I have 4 of his books that all take place in the same series that are loosely connected, starting with Radix. I think those are much more popular than this. But this is an author I am curious to check out, and now I have a growing collection of his books. The Omnibus of Science Fiction, edited by Groff Conklin. This is a bunch of vintage SF. This is a reissue, I think from the 70s or 80s, but originally published 1952. And I just wanted to see what was in here. Alice Sprague de Camp, David Grinnell, Mark Clifton, Theodore Sturgeon, James Blish, H.P. Lovecraft, Damon Knight, Isaac Asimov. Again, about 50% of these are people I have not heard of, but this is like, oh, The Scarlet Plague by Jack London. I've read that. There's an Arthur C. Clarke in here I haven't read. Murray Leinster. Yeah, lots of good stuff. Lots of vintage SF, and I love the cover art. All right, Aristoi by Walter John Williams, author of Hardwired, a cyberpunk I have not yet read but want to. I think this is just a space opera type story, but also lots of cybernetics and virtual worlds. That's an author I need to check out. And 2 by David Zindel, someone I have not read. This is Neverness, which either Moid from Media Death Cult or Matt from Book Build has gone on about multiple times that they love it but never hear anyone talk about it. I want to say it was Moid, but it might have been Matt. Could have been both of them. I finally found a copy. It sounds like an amazing space opera. And then another book by him, also space opera-ish, The Broken God. I've not heard anything about this. but I read the synopsis just earlier and it sounds incredible. So I think he's going to be high up on my TBR. I want to read some epic space opera. And lastly, I found the 1989 Rupert Bear Annual. This is going to have no context for this channel if you're a regular viewer, unless you've seen my interview with Sean at Sean D. Standfast, which was really fun. I really enjoyed that with my Desert Island picks. So that's it. That'll be the last book haul of the year. But there'll be plenty of books for Christmas and my birthday, which is in January. So I will see you next time. Thanks.